Hi, I'm Mike Hughes, Next Level Training. Welcome to our very first live webcast. Now, this is recorded so anyone can watch this in the future, but the nice thing about it being live right now, we can do questions, we can be interactive. There's actually kind of just a very minimal delay, so I'm very much looking forward for that interactiveness. Please feel free to ask any questions whatsoever. So this is actually based on, the content is based on the email we sent out. We have about 6,000 active instructors, self-claims instructors. And there was a survey and some of you responded. And what I'd like to do now is just share with you the results of that survey, if we can switch to that. So now what you can see here is about 22.7% asked. The top one of this is, how do you diagnose problem shooters with the SIRT? How do you do that? So that's a big one, and we're gonna knock that one out today. The second on that list, so how do you implement SIRT on the live fire range? Great question, and it actually deals with utilizing and diagnosing problems there safely. But we're gonna reserve that for next week, because the third one is, how do you train trigger control with the SIRT? And that's a real close cousin to the problem shooters. So that is what we're going to focus on here today is the diagnostics and some basics. As far as timing on this, I'm not sure exactly. I want to be as high and tight with my language as possible and get it done. Maybe 20 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. We'll kind of see how that flows, but I'd rather be high and tight and short and just flow through it. So let's just jump into things right away. First off, let's go into trigger control. Now, I'm going to start with trigger control because that is a subset of diagnostics, all right? So let's go ahead and here we got pistol, all right? And it's a quick introduction on this. This actually happens to be our SIRT 115. It's in our new models. I'll talk about this a little bit later. It's pretty slick. We can adjust the take-up indicator and have some tools and exterior adjustment of the trigger and what have you. But anyhow, I just happen to be using this. It's very similar to our SIRT 110. So let's start with trigger control and training that, all right? So first thing is, let's just use this target right here. I'm using a Century Bob bag as a target. Whenever I can use 3D targets and like that, I certainly choose to do so. Whenever I do train and touch on trigger control, one thing to think about is just training this strong hand only or support hand only, like one hand. And one reason on that, instead of getting into all the issues and what have you on grip and are they high on the grip, are they teacupping and all that, sometimes it's easy just to isolate. Look, we just want you to pull the trigger without disturbing the muzzle. That's pretty much the definition of trigger control. So it's a thing that can be done strong hand. And actually, sometimes when I do classes, I'll teach that before grip. I'll actually teach it before grip because I can actually, before getting into all the details of grip, I get a win quicker, all right? They get handling the SIRT, they get practicing finger off trigger, muzzle awareness and all that, along with just working trigger control. So that's just more of a logistical execution. So let's look at here. I'll shoot, for purpose of this, I'll just shoot soft paw on this close target here, okay? So when you teach trigger control, first thing you can of course do is, you can tell them like where to put the trigger finger on the trigger. I personally don't coach that. I just let them go where they naturally go, just because the length of their finger is so different amongst different shooters. Some are tip, some are middle pad, some are first knuckle, all right? I'm just saying personally, that's your prerogative. I don't get too wrapped around the axle on that. But as soon as they extend out and we get some shots, all right, the main coaching point right off the bat, and you've probably all heard this before, is dots, not dashes, all right? Get dots, not dashes, all right? So with that coaching point just in itself, all right, you may see shooters very early on start with something like this, a lot of milking the gun, co-contraction, things like that, and then eventually working towards just getting those nice, clean dots on target. They can self-correct to a large degree, but obviously, as trainers, as coaches, we want to have coaching points. We want to get information and give them something to correct. So, of course, one thing, of course, is taking a look at their trigger finger position as it is on that trigger. But here are some other thoughts which you can do right off the rip. Of course, the take-up lasers, the trigger take-up lasers are off at this point, all right? But you can tell them, what I like to tell them is, well, okay, when you're pushing that trigger, instead of like pushing it straight back, maybe take that pad, all right, wherever you're touching the trigger, and push it high and outside. As a right-handed shooter, that's going to be a little bit high and out to my right. If I was left-handed shooter, a little bit high, because we want to push it down to the left. It's kind of cheating things to build in our neuromechanics to push it high and outside. So here we go. So if someone's just kind of continually coming down like this, you said, well, maybe take that trigger finger pad we have right here and just kind of push it high and outside your left ear if I'm a left-handed shooter. All right, get a little bit of, and then see if that cleans things up. It gives them something. Essentially, like it gives them something to think about, to let their mechanics, and they get instant feedback to constantly get the dots, all right? Another tip on that, if you're doing this in a class, one thing I like about the SIRT in a class is you get the repetitions, right? I mean, there's a lot of do. People are up. And if you have, say, 5 in a class, you can swap out. As they swap, of course, their fingers off the trigger. You already went over the safety brief, right? And then, they have muzzle awareness and what have you. But also, you can switch from your right hand, their dominant hand, to their second dominant hand or their left hand, and get more reps in, all right? Because they probably might get tired, right? Their shoulder might get tired, okay? So to keep the class active, to keep things moving, grooving, everything else, hey, go to your support hand. There's benefit, I think we all know, about training support hands, just being capable with it in case the main one is maimed and just this ain't working for you. But also, there's something weird about just crossing over to the right hand, okay? Like from your non-dominant, working your non-dominant hand to helping your dominant hand. I can't explain it, I don't know it, I don't have any papers on that. I just speak from personal experience and observation on that. And it's just a good time management trick. So that's the first little bit there on trigger control, just on dots, not dashes. But let's go beyond that a bit into the take-up indicator, okay? So actually what I'll do here, I'll give a little sneak peek. We can kind of get in close here. This is you may look at this. This is the 115 model, and it is actually functional features of Glock 19. All right, so we're quite excited on this. This actually came with the request of a large federal agency. I don't know if I can say it or not, but anyways, we're really excited about these coming out. So anyhow, but one thing you'll notice, you kind of like this, get a kick out of this, in the rear tool here. There's a little tool, all right, and it's a hex wrench. If you got zoom in on that, okay? It's a hex wrench, but so we can adjust the lasers. You always want to adjust the shot indicating lasers. You can adjust the take-up lasers, of course, to get further out of sight picture, and you can also adjust the brake, all right, the brake and the prep weight externally. And this is actually a battery cover external. So if a lot of you are familiar with the SIRT, I think you might be quite excited about our new design here in the 114, 115 models, which are coming compact and full. Anyways, I just thought I'd throw that in there right now. Oh yeah, you can also adjust when the take-up indicator comes on, all right? So let me just, it's kind of awkward. Let me turn the take-up indicator on, all right? This switch is a little buried down there deep, but just the way the thick metal, and we want to maximize, it's a little compromised, but it's nestled in there pretty good. But now I have the prep on. Let me put in my video, and let me just show you here what's going on. I don't know if you got to zoom in or not, but so now I got prep, the red laser comes on, and brake, all right? And then it's both off, and then I re-prep, it's red, all right? So that's the functionality of the SIRT if you're not familiar. I don't want to be too basic if a lot of the instructors out there are familiar with that. But the big question is, okay, what do we do with that with trigger control? All right, how do we diagnose? How's that a meaningful teaching tool? All right, with trigger control. And I'll go ahead and demo again right here. All right. So okay, let's demo in the same spot. Actually, no, let's change it up. I want to demo on this guy right here. All right, this close target. Okay, so here we go. This is a little bit closer target. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I turn on the take-up indicator, and as an instructor, I note the red and the green lasers. Now, we oftentimes adjust that red laser so it's out of sight picture, so it's not a sighting aid like a laser. It's indicating when people are prepping that trigger, all right? So what do you see commonly to diagnose with trigger control? You see boom, all right, or like a boom, or boom. Now, I'll stop and pause right there as to what what you saw as an instructor. I'll do it again. And if I do it strong-handed, and that's one reason I like doing strong-hand only and weak-hand only, because the grip doesn't hide trigger mechanic issues, okay? Because a good grip can hide trigger mechanic issues, and in fact, the dots not dashes when you dry fire tends to really lock in your grip to be live fire, which is kind of a fringe benefit of just having the feedback as well, as far as a better grip. But single hand only like this, strong hand only, you know, if you see red, green, just like that, all right? Well, what it means is you're slapping the trigger, all right? It's not a prep, break, reset, reprep, okay? What we have here is just, boom, Christmas, instant Christmas, all right, if you want to think that way. If it's instant Christmas, they're slapping the trigger, and don't be surprised. This target's very close, by the way. I think the camera makes it look farther than it is, being wide angle, but it's a few yards away. If you go further back, which is another tip, just move your line in your class, which is in your classroom, by the way, and you move them like, say, 10 yards, of course, just, you know, those dashes are more pronounced, all right? So when I come out here and it's just like boom, all right, boom. You don't have to worry if they're looking at their sights or what have you at this point. That's not the point of the drill. So what you want to say is like, okay, let's take these in bites, class. Let's take these in bites. So I'd like you to do, and I'll go softball here, is extend out and then just prep the trigger. Just bring it up to the wall so they understand what prep means. All right, they understand that, hey, you're just bringing it right to that midpoint, right? Bringing it to that wall. All right. So back here on the side, what we have is like we have prep, and then the next bite on that can just simply be, let's break the shot. All right, so we prep, then we break, and at this point, you can tell them to pin the trigger. Now, of course, we want to get off and away from pinning the trigger, like, you know, we want good follow through, but we want to prep, break, then reset, reprep. So the next bite on that in the class is like, okay, so you're gonna prep, break. Now we're gonna pin the trigger all the way back, and you can tell them to try to keep it stable or something like that. It's not, you know, that's not super, you know, tiled into mechanics, but you can make a game out of that a little bit, right? It doesn't detract too much. Okay, so then then the next bite on that, all right, will be prep, break, okay, reset, reprep, and then they're done. And one thing you can tell them to put them on a glide path for mastery with the pistol is you're not done shooting, all right, until you reprep. So you go prep, break, reset, reprep, and then you're done. Because what are you ready to do? Take another shot at that point. Break, reset, reprep. Break, reset, reprep. Now, you don't necessarily want the red laser to not turn off, but you just want it to momentarily turn off. So in other words, you don't have to just go real slow right to that point and reprep. I mean, it can come forward fast as it should, but as it comes forward fast, they build this muscle memory so it comes right to that wall point for taking the next shot. All right? I don't know if there's any questions on that, but that is some starting blocks to put them on a path of mastery for trigger control. All right? And then again, go softball, right? And strong hand, or, you know, whatever. Just strong hand and second strong hand. All right? And they can just hit that drill back and forth, all right, on and on. All right? Okay. So, you're good? Any questions on that, Luke? We're good. Keep marching. All right. How many viewers do we have? 75. 75? You're kidding me. Oh, wow. Pressure's on. We thought it'd be like 20. All right, this is great. Okay, super. And again, if anyone has any comments, please, one of the advantages here is we're interactive right now. So feel free to fire anything out, or if anything's unclear whatsoever. Any questions are good. So that's some real basics on hitting on trigger control. And what I'd like to do now is just dovetail that a little bit further into some more diagnostics, all right? And that really is kind of inherent with diagnostics. So I'm going to turn the take-up indicator off, all right? And so I just have shot indication. All right, and let's talk a little bit more on diagnosing problems, and let's do it in the context of, I notice we asked the questions, do you train with sights or natural point of aim, and that was actually got 13.1%, and that was kind of, I think I dictated that off fast. That doesn't really make sense. I mean, you know, natural point of aim is when we're looking at the side cam here. When we're close to a target, you know, we have natural point of aim. If we're a little bit farther, as we can see down here, then I need a little bit more sights and trigger control, you know, to get a precision shot within the the accuracy zone, the acceptable accuracy zone, the combat accuracy zone, or you want to call it the defensive accuracy zone, all right? Either way, like the target, right? Quick sidestep, when you refer to targets, you can call, that upper thoracic area the defensive accuracy zone, and of course that area through there. Defensive accuracy, like USCCA calls. Acceptable accuracy, I like to call. It gets a little more broader and it relates to competition. And then combat accuracy too, all depending on your student base. But all meaning any shot within that area is no more valuable than any other location within that defensive accuracy zone, okay? Acceptable accuracy zone, okay? So anyhow, let's talk about diagnostics in this sense. First off, within your acceptable accuracy zone, let's just talk about index shooting, all right? So the first thing is like, look, diagnosing the problem shooter, are they taking too long? If I have targets, let's looking from here, that are relatively close, like the bob bag right here, all right? Even if I go from, say, full draw, in whatever context, whatever drill you have, but I come out and boom, 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 all right? I'm not really using my sights on that. And I'll train live fire and confirm, but obviously I get the feedback like instantly that, of where my shots are, all right? So, the first diagnosis is, are you using the right aiming systems given your skill, target distance and target size and context? And there's another factor, just a precursor on this, credit to Trevor Thrasher, the sudden high intensity threat factor. Is a target coming at you, directing energy on you or somewhere else? Those also factor into the degree of sights versus natural point of aim. You will utilize what you can utilize, all right, what's physiologically possible there. So first off, if someone is taking so long up short, like they're coming out and it's like this, right? It's like, well, look, you got a dead center shot, but this is just as good as that, all right? So it's a time thing, and you never slow down to get better, all right? You just do better quality. So if someone is just missing, and I'll exaggerate it with this side camera here if we got a good one. If someone is off like this, all right, it's way off. Well, what's the problem with that? Is it their sight alignment? No, it's something with their grip and grip establishment, a topic I do want to talk about in another module, probably a few modules, because I'm quite a grip Nazi actually. But anyway, so like there's something wrong. So if there's an issue, like, I don't know if this comes up good enough, like if they're missing like something egregiously like this, something's wrong with their natural point of aim, all right? Something's clearly wrong with their natural point of aim. So, they got, hey, align your breastplate a little bit more, make sure when you do your grip establishment as we teach beyond the scope here, but then you can ultimately kind of punch out and send it fearlessly, all right? Fearlessly, until those are within that accuracy zone. And of course, the tighter you get, the better, but you don't want to slow down to get tighter on that first phase of diagnostics on a natural point of aim, all right? Okay? All right, so that's a first little bite is not to slow down. Now here's just a tip too. If you have students and they're just always taking so long to break off that first shot, everything's there, everything's fine, but they're just not breaking that shot, try this. Tell them, all right, you know what the acceptable accuracy zone is now? The whole wall, okay? It's the whole wall. Cook it off as quick as you can. All right, like take the stigma out of missing and let their abilities flourish a bit, all right? So yeah, this whole wall is my acceptable accuracy zone. All right, so I'll just go from the draw on this one then, right? Okay, boom, boom. All right, well look, I did a little jerk on the end because I really broke it quick, but I didn't slow down, but I was kind of right there, right? And I'm saying a student can do this too. So now that you take it back to the target, all right, they should speed up, use their natural point of aim. Okay, makes sense? Makes sense? All right, so let's go to another block on this. Now let's switch to a long cam here. Let's just take the targets longer, all right, for purpose that we're going to use a little bit more sights. The context now is use a little bit more sights, all right? So with this, what we just want to see definitely is I'll probably get a lot of sight alignment, and boom, all right, that's a great shot. But what are we going to see in the classroom? A lot, where we might see something that's a little bit different like this, and then swing it over, all right? They obviously, now sometimes you want to correct that, but they obviously knew they screwed up and swing it over. If they think they fixed themselves by swinging it over, well, you can tell them, but they usually don't. Students will do that not to look stupid, but just be patient. You don't always have to correct that. And the next one might have better sight alignment, and get more towards the target. All right. But let's diagnose okay, so that's the aiming system what I'm talking about right now. Let's go back towards the quality of the trigger pull, all right? And I'll just use this medium target right here. So there's a big difference between that and that. What's the difference? Actually, no, let me take back, okay? Okay, watch this closely. Big difference, you see this versus this. All right, I would say this is outside the accuracy zone, all right? And, we could draw or just use a piece of paper up there for a good, clean, high and tight target, all right? But the difference between this is an aiming issue. The difference, the deficiency on this is a trigger mechanic issue. Why? Because it's like an oscilloscope-like sweep, all right? It's moving, okay? I'm right-handed, down and left, we know that, right? Left-handed, down and to the right, the 4 o'clock, okay? Sometimes, particularly have some live fire, people heel the gun, all right? They kind of push away, all right? I've actually seen that before. Not as very often, but that push away, and it helps on the range when you swap out with the live gun and you don't see a bullet hole a moment in time, you see the whole story of that trigger pull, what have you, okay? So that's just the first bite on that is the nature of that laser, all right? Now, let's just do a little, it's got another 10 minutes here or so. Let's turn the take-up laser back on, okay? Turn the take-up laser back on. Let's get a little bit more diagnostics, all right? One, it's a little bit beyond the scope of these blocks, but as I extend out, I start prepping, all right? As I extend out, I start prepping that trigger. So I extend out, I start prepping, then I break that shot. Then I reset, reprep, okay? If they use one eye, they ain't gonna see that red laser. It's for you, the instructor, all right? If you have it down and outside, And the funny thing too, a quick side note here, is I've noticed that the red take-up laser, particularly when people start going faster and doing drills in classes, and this could be the first class too, all right? Literally, they start going both eyes open. It's a weird phenomenon, but they start going both. They kind of cheat and they kind of know it's there and they kind of pull that information in, So anyhow, that's an interesting thing to note. But diagnostic-wise, so you can see if they're prepping and then breaking, and again, not just slapping that trigger and coming all the way off, slapping that trigger, come all the way off, slapping that trigger, come all the way off. No. Prep, break, reset, reprep. And then this should be done when you go to speed, nothing really changes. This is a glide path, obviously, for mastery, but put him in the best position, okay? So that's another little bite there, tying in those diagnostics. I'd like to do one more layer on diagnostics and laser movement, okay? And I will, actually, for this purpose, this first drill, I'll turn off the take-up laser, okay? And let's look at the side target here, the close one, and let's diagnose two different issues here on not moving in shootings, but movement with shootings, specifically decelerating to a position and cooking off rounds, which really shouldn't be too advanced, right? Sometimes it's hard to do that on a range, but we can definitely get a lot of that training off range with the SIRT, all right? So if I come into a position and stop and see this, okay, that's trigger mechanic issue, all right? And I'm kind of exaggerating it, but literally, well, sometimes it's pretty pronounced with some students, all right? So we go back to trigger control and we fix that, maybe do some side drills or what have you, so they get a nice clean dot, not dash. However, sometimes when you're decelerating into position and it's something like this, there might be this kind of movement, all right? Particularly up close or around a barricade and compromised shooting positions, but it's not necessarily bad movement, all right? Meaning your whole body is not stable at that point, right? But yet, a little bit of movement like this, it's like, well, okay, it moved, but it wasn't a trigger move. And if we wanted to invest time in getting totally stable and come out, depending on context, sure, but if that's not the context and you just have to get them off there, it's okay to have some of that lack of perfect stability movement. All right? That kind of movement is different. Now validate this for yourself as an instructor. All right, just do some drills, set it up, and validate. Now, by way of contrast, it's looking right here and going long. If I'm running to position, I probably got to get a little bit more stable all right, to shoot that far target. And you can set this up as a drill. All this is a precursor, to set up for little drills, all right, which we can go into further detail if you like, if you want us to get more granular on how to exactly set up drills and put them on the wall and what have you, okay? So if I'm running to this far target here, and I want to say, well, I have to probably get a lot more stable before I cook off that round, okay? If I'm not very stable and I try to cook it, that was a movie, it's kind of ugly. I'm going to have to understand what I call sequencing. I learned from Dave Savigny a bit more that I got to decelerate with a little more stability to break off a long shot. So again, you're diagnosing in this sense how stable the whole body is and platform to cook off that round. Okay? All right. So it's got one little question here, and that's 25 minutes. Wow, that's gone by pretty fast. All right. Should students use a shot timer when training? Thanks, David, on asking that. I like any tool, it can be useful or not. I think a shot timer is great because it does give a hard accountability of time, particularly with a par timer. So you can use that with just your phone and things like that, right? So you have it cook, something go off, the buzzer goes off as an indicator to do some movement, and you try to complete some actions between that second par time, all right? I think that's useful. One way that's useful for students is if you set a really long par time, like 3 seconds, okay? And they got to draw, when you get to the draw phase. You got to draw, come out, boom, prep, boom, and do it at 3 seconds. And then you put it, this could be a group setting, all right, like say 2.5, and then 2 seconds, all right, something like that, right? So then as you get down and they keep working it, right, keep working the draw. And again, working the draw, probably at least a second class type thing. I don't know, depending on how you all roll with that, right? Clearing garment and doing the whole bit, and doing it with the SIRTs, of course, right? And then work it to like 1 second. Let's keep working it. I'm a fan of timers. I really am. But it can be abused too, right? If you use it too much, definitely. Got another question here. MC, like how do you deal with students who are fearful? All right, that's a great question. Like a lot of concealed carry holders a lot of first-time gun owners are coming in, right? And I'm sure a lot of you are getting, doing well with the CCW classes and first classes, gun familiarity classes. What I like to do, and again, it depends on your definition of fearful, is a lot of times a lot of the instruction off the range, like with the SIRT, if you give your safety brief, all right, first, right? Say, hey, make sure there's no live fire tools in there and everything. Say, hey, look, don't load the pistol to ready to shoot, or always treat it as loaded. Keep your finger off the trigger to ready to shoot. Don't point what you're going to destroy, and watch target what's behind it, or if you do the 3 or the 4, whatever. You talk about it. Now you can, hey, we're going to get SIRTs. These are inert. They can't go boom. All right. They just shoot photons. All right. We're going to be training with these today. So just feel comfortable to grab it. Remember the rules, right? So they grab it, and what we tend to find is that it has enough, particularly with pro models, enough girth to give respect, but also a distance from it that, okay, it can't hurt me. All right, this can't hurt me, okay? And then in 2-hour block, like we have an applied fundamentals class. I think we'll talk about that later in the next thing here. I want to wrap this up, keep it about a half hour, high and tight. But it's very much a drill-based class. It's a resource on sirtliving.com. And we'll put that up later or put that in the notes. But basically, it's a free resource we just thought of a second class for instructors, just to have ideas for follow-on drills. But when they start engaging in these drills of trigger control and grip, and while your safety and proficiency are inextricably intertwined, right? As they develop those skills, they're developing, hey, watch the muzzle, finger off the trigger, yada yada, and then pretty soon that's a glide path for going live fire. Then it's great to start with 22s, right? With double ear pro and what have you. I hope that addresses your question, MC. It's like everything, like we just layer it, and then it's just like, driving's scary as hell too, right? Until you understand, like, okay, how you keep it, the gas pedal, the clutch, well, not the clutch anymore, but yeah, walk them along. Good, that's great. So I think I want to cut it off there. That went by pretty fast, 30 minutes. But those are some fundamentals on diagnostics. I can just explain real quick to finish this off. Got some kind of fun stuff here. Let's do the show and tell part of this. You haven't seen this yet. Super, super excited on our STIC. If you haven't seen this, we have our bolt, and our bolt's fine, but you need to be a little bit gunsmithy to get it in, and it's hard to leave your AR-15 around the house and train. But what we've done here, I don't know if you all seen this yet, but essentially you just repurpose your 110 or 114 or 115 or new models, okay? So you got all the functionality of the, the shot indicating laser and the everything, and you slide it on in, right? So all that functionality lives here, and you just got this chassis system with the adjustable stock. You got sling mounts here. You got sling mounts to mount along here. Got a really nice Picatinny rail, full length. That guy actually is a little bit costly, but it's nice. And put whatever optic if you're choosing on top, right? You even got an operating safety. So I don't know if you all are teaching AR classes, but I would suggest you teach an AR class. I'm not really an AR guy or rifle guy. I just love pistol, right? But, and maybe you are all not, but I would strongly suggest, if you just have a class on some sling manipulation, offset training from mechanical offset, because you do get offset. Even right here, when I shoot, I gotta have considerable offset from my optic. So considerable, I'm at the top of the bob, the dot, and then that's where the shot is. And then just safety training, a selector switch, right? Gun up, safety down, right? Gun down, safety up. And then we sell like a $20 sling, just get something functional. I think you could stack the wood pile so much higher, offering just an introductory manipulations course is what it is. And just do some compromised shooting. And out of hunting season, I love these. I put a big optic on one at home, and I just ting a license plate at like about 70 yards. Just try to 4D cell and ting a license plate, because it reflects, all right, in any weather, even full sun. Excited on this, super excited on this. So anyways, I just thought I'd share that with you all, because that's, and shoot, I don't know if it's instructor pricing, it's like $240 MSRP, but I think we've always taken care of instructors on pricing, and always ask David, good old crazy Dave, if you have any questions on that. He is there as a passionate guy, amazing guy, just an amazing guy to help you with a lot of oomph. So yeah, it's great, super. So with that, we're going to send out a follow-up email on this and ask you all, like, hey, what do you want to know? Because we look at NLT like this, my friends. It's like a spoken hub arrangement. Everything I've said today is not the stuff we dreamed up. It's things we've learned from someone like yourself. All right, these little drills and what have you. We just try to package that together into something cohesive that can be actually implemented in classes and accelerate the learning and make it safer and be a good business model for you guys, so you can sell second classes. So we have a little video thing coming out. I don't know what it's called, but like, if you have any videos or what have you, they don't have to be all like, pro and everything in multicam like this. Just little something, okay? Like that, those work great. We want to get that kind of content in. So look for that content, and please interact. And I think we're going to make a new email. I told Luke this. We're going to call it trainer support at SIRT.com. All right, just so it doesn't get filtered through customer service. Like trainers, I think it's done. Let's like that trainer support. All right, at nextleveltrain.com, and that's going to give sort of a higher priority, just so we can interact and serve you better as an instructor. Because, yeah, God knows that we need your services out there to preserve our rights and build that proficiency worldwide. So thank you so much. And look forward to, I think, the next, maybe a month out, we'll do another one of these, maybe 2 weeks, month. So it's going to be great. Super. Thank you. Mike Hughes. Cheers.